Hello there! How can you install Hadoop on Mac? If you are watching this video, my guess is that you are interested on big data, or at least you are learning, and you decided to install Hadoop in your machine. Maybe you have searched for tutorials on the internet, but the information you found is not detailed enough, and therefore you couldn't get Hadoop working just yet. Well, I have good news for you. In this video, I will show you step by step how to install Hadoop on your machine, providing you with all the information you need to complete the installation and get Hadoop working. Let's see how the video is gonna be organized. First, I will give you a brief overview of what Hadoop is and its architecture. The reason is that there are some concepts that you need to understand, so it's easier for you to follow along and install Hadoop correctly. Next, we will see the different installation modes that Hadoop provides, and then we will see how to do the installation using the Standalone mode, and then the Pseudo distributed mode. Alright, so without further ado, let's get started. So let's start by talking about what Hadoop is and understanding a bit better the architecture. When you are thinking about Hadoop, probably the first idea that crosses your mind is big data. And that's correct. Hadoop emerged with big data, since there was a need to store large amount of data. Not only to store it, but also to analyze it and being able to access this data in a way that was reliable, scalable, and also affordable. The Hadoop system was designed to solve two problems. The first one, what happens if the computer fails? Traditionally, if a machine fails, all information stored in this machine is lost, unless there was a backup. The Hadoop system has a mechanism to avoid this problem. And the second challenging problem was combining information from different hard drives. Accessing and combining information coming from different hard drives can be challenging. So Hadoop also addressed this problem. Alright, so that's a bit of background about how Hadoop emerged. So let's see what Hadoop is now. Hadoop is an open source software which is optimized for reliable and scalable distributed computing. So what does that mean? Distributed computing means that instead of having a single machine carrying out a processing task, the task will be split and performed by several computers and then combined. It's also reliable, meaning that the Hadoop software includes mechanisms to avoid data loss, and it's a system that scales, meaning that more computers can be added to the cluster as the data grows. Another interesting aspect about Hadoop is that it's designed to handle large files. How does Hadoop achieve this? When you store a file in Hadoop, the file will be split in smaller pieces, and each piece is stored in a different machine within the cluster. Plus, each piece is copied in several machines, so there are replicas in different machines to avoid data loss. Alright, so what's Hadoop again? An open source software optimized for reliable and scalable distributed computing. So now that we understand the definition a lot better, let's talk about the architecture. The Hadoop system is divided in two parts, the MapReduce and the HDFS. The MapReduce is a processing paradigm or a processing strategy that consists in splitting a processing task into smaller fixed pieces and then assign a file block to each unit. Each of these smaller processing units are independent and might execute in a different server, and each acts as a different file block. After all processing units are complete, the results are combined. The HDFS is a storage strategy that breaks large files into smaller blocks. 108 megs is the default. Each block is replicated across different computers, preventing data loss. In the HDFS architecture, there are two types of nodes or servers, the name node and the data nodes. There is usually one active name node to keep track of where the small blocks are stored, and then a data node or several data nodes which contain the actual file blocks which the client will be accessing. Perfect, so now that we understand what Hadoop is and its architecture, let's have a look at the installation. In this tutorial, we will see how to install Hadoop in a single machine. When installing Hadoop, you can configure it in 3 different modes. Standalone, which means that there is no separate daemons running, and everything runs in a Java virtual machine in a single machine. And this is the default configuration. Then we have the pseudo distributed configuration, and this means Hadoop daemons will be running to simulate a cluster communication. However, all is running in the same machine. And finally, the fully distributed mode, which we are not gonna see since we will need several computers for this. In this tutorial, we are gonna see the standalone and the pseudo distributed mode. And another thing I would like to clarify is that I mentioned the Hadoop daemons, so you are probably wondering what those are. In Hadoop, there are 3 daemon types. The HDFS daemon that runs on the name nodes and on the data nodes. Then the jar daemon for managing the nodes in the cluster, and then the MapReduce daemon. Alright, so we have seen the different configurations that Hadoop offers. So let's start with the installation. First, we will start with the standalone configuration, and then I will modify it so it works in pseudo-distributed mode as well. So as we have seen, standalone means that there are no separate daemons and all processes are running on the same Java virtual machine. To do this installation, we will need to check that Java is installed. Then we will need to download Hadoop and then set up the Hadoop environment variables. Alright, so first let's open the terminal, and here you need to run the following. So export Java home, which is the environment variable, and then the folder where Java is installed. Another way to do this is going to the home directory and then open the file bash profile, and then see that the Java home variable is there and also is part of the path. And once you have done that, open the terminal again and then run java --version. And here, if you get anything different from the version, it means Java is not installed correctly. If you get an error here, feel free to send a comment or an email to the email address below. And if I get enough emails, I will make a video explaining how to do this in a more detailed manner. Now, once you have Java installed, the next step is to download Hadoop. You can download Hadoop from the Apache website, and I will leave a link in the description below. And once you are there, you can click on the HTTP link and select the version. So I'm going to choose 322 and then click on the file with extension .tar.gz. And then you will uncompress the file in any folder. Make sure you remember where you uncompress the file, since you will need the path for the next step. This folder contains all the scripts for running the Hadoop daemons. Now we are going to set up the Hadoop environment variables. So I'm going to open the VAS profile file, and I'm going to add the variable Hadoop home, which will be equal to the directory where we uncompress Hadoop. And then we will add this to the path twice, once for the bin folder and also for the sbin folder. And that's all we need to do to install Hadoop in standalone mode. Now let's open the terminal to check that Hadoop works. So I will run Hadoop version, and if everything went well, you should see the version below. Now, let's see what you need to change to run Hadoop in pseudo distributed mode. In this mode, we will have the Hadoop daemons running locally. However, the daemons will behave as or in the same way as if they were running in a distributed system. And that means they will try to connect to other servers within the cluster. However, instead of connecting to other servers, we will configure it to connect to localhost. So we will start by looking at the configuration files, and there are 5 properties in these files that we will need to modify. So you can find the configuration files in the Hadoop folder inside the etc and then Hadoop folder. And here we will open the hdfs-site.xml file and set the property dfs.replication as 1. This property indicates the number of copies of the file blocks. Then we will open the file called core-site.xml, and in this file we're gonna update the fs.defaultfs as hdfs and then localhost, and this is gonna be the location of the file system. Next, you need to open the mapred-site.xml file, and in here we will change the property MapReduceFramework.name, and the value will be yarn, which means that the Hadoop jobs will be executed using yarn. And last, we need to open the yarn-site.xml file, and I will set the property yarn.resourcemanager.hostname as localhost, and this is indicating the machine that will act as the resource manager. And we will also update the property yarn.nodemanager.aosservice, and the value is going to be MapReduce-shuffle, and this is indicating the auxiliary services that the node manager should run. So now that we have updated configuration, we just have 3 small steps left to complete the configuration. Next step is configuring the SSH. So in pseudo distributed mode, Hadoop acts as if running in a cluster, and therefore to start daemons it needs to connect to the server within the cluster using SSH, even though in this case it will actually connect to itself. As a result, we need to make sure that SSH is installed and that the passwordless login is enabled. To do so, go to Preferences and then Sharing, and select Remote Login, and then select Only Admin. Also, I will run the following command to create an SSH key and set it as the authorized key. This way, no password is needed when SSHing. So the command will be ssh keygem, then rsa, and then the file. So this will create a file called id rsa in the folder ssh containing the key. And now I will run the following command: cat and then ssh authorize keys, and this will add the ssh key at the end of the authorized keys file. And now you can check that ssh is working by running ssh localhost. Next step is formatting the HDFS file system. To do so, you need to run the following command from your terminal: HDFS, then name node dash format. And the last step is to start the daemons. There are 3 daemons you need to start: the HDFS, YARM, and the MapReduce daemon. So from the terminal, you will need to go to the Hadoop folder and then to the sbin folder and run start -dfs.sh. Then you need to run start yarn.sh and then mr job history daemons.sh, start and history server. If any of these commands are not recognized, you should go back to your bash profile file and make sure you added the sbin folder in the path. Perfect, so now that the Hadoop daemons are running, you can check if this is working by accessing the name node user interface. So if you go to your browser and then enter localhost semicolon and the port 50070, you will see the name node console. You can also access the resource manager console in port 8088. And that's all. We reached the end of the tutorial where we have seen how you can install Hadoop on your Mac machine. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial and I will see you in the next one.